Hey everybody, this is Tim Wolf, and today's subject is a very brief history of distorted guitar. And distorted guitar is incredibly important to the sound of rock, blues, most popular music in the 20th century and into the 21st century. And distorted guitar is basically when the waveform is distorted from it's clipped. It looks like a wave, and if you looked at it on an oscilloscope, it would be modified. You'd start seeing the tops and the bottoms would be clipped off. That's my understanding of it. And the ultimate, you get a square wave that is extremely clipping. So the earliest indications or places where distortion happened on a record was, surprise, was in Western swing, apparently. Bob Wills and his Texas Playboys, the guitar player wanted a dirtier tone, and he even developed his own pickups to get there. So who would have thought that the Western swing, and I love Bob Wills and Texas Playboys. I love their stuff. That there's some really good playing over changes, and those guys were no slouches on the guitar. So that was from like 1946, and then there were Link Ray, and I did a video of him recently. He got somewhat of a distorted sound by poking a hole in a speaker, so he damaging things, and then. So that was in the early 60s, and then there was, even before that, people would take like an 18-watt Fender amp and turn it up so that it would distort, it would overdrive it, and it was only 18 watts, but it was still pretty loud, probably, and so there was some of that, and then the vacuum tubes would clip. And so there's that, and distortion used to be something that sound engineers tried to avoid in the recording process. We wanted it clean as possible, and I remember that was one of the reasons why solid state was originally embraced, because transistors, there's no distortion, and tubes, almost by definition, will distort. The thing about it is, it's a very harmonically pleasing distortion, and it's described as a warm tone. And so, there are hi-fi enthusiasts that their amp in their hi-fi amp or their stereo amp, if you will, in their home is a tube amplifier. And so those tubes clip or distort, but it's in a very pleasing way. And I personally still prefer tube amps, guitar amps, and a lot of guitar players that play blues and blues rock feel the same way. And all the great Fender and so many other manufacturers, Mesa Boogie, and then you talk about which type of tube to use, and it's because the tubes break up in a very distinct way. But there were others who used solid state distortion. B.B. King is famous for using a solid state amp and having that break up. So it breaks up differently. The distortion is different. You can overdrive a transistor. Yeah, you can. But if you don't overdrive it, if you don't go past its rated amount, it's cleaner. So at room volume, that doesn't make any sense. But not at full drive, where you're not overdriving anything, tubes will still have some harmonic distortion, and whereas transistors won't at a lower volume. So anyway, I'm kind of all over the map, but then the Kinks, it was to really got me in 1965. They wanted a fuzzed out sound, so they took a razor blade and cut their speaker. Remember, Link Ray poked a pencil on his, and I just did a video talking about the first Puzz Tone, which came out in '62. And so then you could get it in a pedal. You didn't have to wreck your equipment. And Rolling Stone did Can't Get No Satisfaction using the fuzz tone pedal. Hendrix was one of the biggest innovators using distortion and overdrive. And he used a lot of pedals. He was one of the first to use them. And so distortion and overdrive is a very, very integral part of rock music, pop music. And so that's all I got today. See you next time.